everyone, Lore Master of Sotek here, and as I promised, now that I'm allowed to talk about things a little more freely, I wanted to make a video showing off kind of a couple last little things that you can see in the update to Total War Warhammer. A couple of these things are free LC related. We'll of course be taking a closer look at the world maps in order to explore some new locations and show off a couple things. But the first thing that I wanted to show was actually that Quick Headtaker and Tretch Craventail got some pretty cool little additions to their campaign. So you'll notice that over here, Quick Headtaker actually has been made a little bit more synergetic with the chieftains. So right at the start of the campaign, he actually is able to get two chieftains, additional chieftains right away, which is really strong because in addition to that, his starting structure, the Clan Moor's headquarters, now opens up recruitment for chieftains right away. So literally the second you start the campaign, you can go ahead and start recruiting chieftains to really be effective bodyguards and lieutenants for good old Quick Headtaker. Meanwhile, Clan Rictus, led by Tretch Craventail, has always been kind of notoriously terrible. Like, his Lord effects weren't awful because he gets melee attack in a lot of scenarios and has Vanguard deployment, but his faction effects were awful because he used to just have this public order thing. And then they were like, oh, he can also hang out in mountain terrain or frozen waste, whatever it was. But as you can see, he's actually been substantially buffed on that measure. Now, when you play Tretch Craventail, he gets some really nice faction-wide effects, being that all the Storm Vermin in his faction have the Encourage aura, meaning that they actually gain the ability to give leadership bonuses to nearby units. They also get +3 recruitment ranks faction-wide, which is really strong, especially for most Skaven builds in campaign are usually pretty reliant on Storm Vermin. And then his Scurry Away has been buffed. So Scurry Away, of course, is the buff you get when your leadership starts to go down really low. It gives you a 12% speed bonus, but in Tretch's case, I believe it's actually a 24% speed bonus, and also gives a 10% ward save to all Skaven that have it. So literally every single infantry unit in Tretch's army gets improved defenses and runs practically twice as fast when fleeing from battle, which does fit quite nicely with his motif, and he also has some of the best Storm Vermin in the game now, thanks to the Clan Rictus buffs, which does make sense. Clan Rictus is famous for having pretty much the best Storm Vermin. Good old Clan Moors is more known for being the clan that kind of bears the brunt of fighting a lot of the dwarves, major dwarf and greenskin factions, of course for Carrick 8 Peaks, but they also tend to specialize in being more of a massive horde as opposed to specific elites. Quick Headtaker, of course, is the most is one of the scariest fighters in all of Skavendom. But it is nice to see, you know, they do kind of have that horde feel to them because of the reduced upkeep cost and additional Menace Below uses, which Menace Below has also been actually substantially debuffed in the new build. You may have seen this during some Throughout the Unclean campaigns, but essentially Menace Below used to be you could kind of just spam summon very quickly, but now not only does it have a much longer cooldown, I want to say it has something like its cooldown might be roughly the same, but it has a much longer cast time. It used to be you'd throw it on the ground and the Skaven would pop out immediately. Now you throw the symbol on the ground and activate it, and it takes roughly 5 seconds for the Skaven to pop out, so it gives if you're fighting against the Skaven, it actually gives you some time to react and make a response to it, which is nice. And I think they increased the cooldown between uses, so you're not able to spam it nearly as effectively as you used to. The last thing we're going to be looking at the Skaven is a couple of things on the map. So you all will be joining me once I'm on the campaign map. See you in just a sec. Alright, welcome back to the campaign map, folks. We're playing as Tretch Craventail because Tretch has actually had a very cool change added. He still hasn't quite got although I'm hoping one day we see him get a really nice, unique building in his starting area to represent the giant amounts of warpstone he supposedly has been sent to Naggaroth to collect. He does, of course, have the good old-fashioned building in Clarkarund, but most importantly, there is a new structure in Grond we're going to be looking at in just a minute, thanks to Clan Mulder. The big thing I wanted to show you with Tretch, though, is way over in the east, where Tretch now starts the campaign with an undercity beneath Crookback Mountain with deeper tunnels already built. So that does kind of block your line of sight, but of course you can break it down for some early free money if you'd like, a nice 1200 bonus gold, or you can leave it up and make your preparations to take over your home if you're not interested in dealing with diplomacy with your boss, Chief Doomclaw. It's actually pretty easy, thanks to the fact that you start with the deeper tunnels to essentially build a Rat King and then get a Vermintide going. And you can pretty much overwhelm Crookback Mountain by turn 5, turn 6, if you really want to just bust it out. Especially because the Undercity does get destroyed the instant you activate the Vermintide. So you probably will want to be cautious to make sure that you time it so that Doomclaw isn't standing too close. But you are able to summon an army all the way over here in the east and take over your ancestral capital very easy. At which point you could just abandon Naggaroth if you want, or you could, you know, functionally have a campaign where you're fighting on two fronts, which is certainly doable. It's a little unfortunate that they made it. It works. I don't want to call it well, I guess I will. It's a bit of a lazy solution. I personally would have liked it if it was a Confederation quest as opposed to just giving you a sneaky backdoor way to take it. But I suppose it is thematic for Tretch, though it is a little spooky because if you don't time it properly, you can accidentally summon them up and potentially be fighting a very nasty garrison if you're unlucky, led by Chief Doomclaw himself. But if you're lucky, hopefully he'll wander off and be fighting somebody else in the meantime. That pretty much does it for Tretch, so now let's hop over to Throt the Unclean so he can show us the new building that's available for all Skaven in Grond. Alright, welcome back. So we are in the Vortex campaign for Throt, which is the fastest route to take Grond if you're playing as the Skaven. This building does exist in Grond outside of playing the Vortex campaign. I believe you can also acquire this building. It's guaranteed. I've tested it. You can get it in Mortal Empires or Vortex with Throt the Unclean. I'm not 1000% sure if the other Skaven factions can build it. I believe they can, but it does something slightly different for them. So the first structure you can build is right at tier 2. It's very nice and early, and a must-have for Throt's Vortex campaign, and it's the Dungeon Vaults. So this allows you, it generates a bunch of food, public order, gives you a notable amount of bonuses for rat ogres and hell pit abominations, and it gives you growth juice per turn, which is an exclusive feature to Throt. I believe you can build this structure using any of the Skaven clans, but it only has the growth juice function if you're playing as Throt, obviously, because he's the only one that can use that mechanic. Then at level 5, you can upgrade it to the Subterranean Sanctums. This gives you additional food, public order, growth juice, and gives you many more bonuses for your rat ogres and hell pit abominations, as well as making hell pit abominations faster to recruit. And it also gives you some buffs for your mutant rat ogres. So if you're wanting to have lots of big nasty beasties on the battlefield, this is absolutely a building that is a must-have. If you're playing as Throt the Unclean in Mortal Empires, this building may damn well be worth actually going across the ocean from Norska to take the war to the Dark Elves so you can have it for yourself. Something to consider. Hello everyone, welcome back, and this time we're going to be diving in heavily to the Wood Elves and showing off all the new buildings as well as actually exploring the new terrain. When I made the part 1 video for this just to kind of show you guys everything that was new, I wasn't able to go super in depth due to some embargoes that were in place, but since those are all gone, we can actually dive in a bit. So, first place I want to show you is the Witchwood. This is the starting location for the Sisters of Twilight, who start off at war with the Dark Elves of the Bleak Hold. You also have to deal with the nearby enemies of, you have Clarkarund and also the Broken Chains Greenskins. Lots of beastmen running about. And Katep is also nearby, though he can actually make for a pretty solid early ally. You will notice that the Witchwood is kind of tucked into a little bit of an awkward place. It does have a couple of entryways that you're going to need to guard or pay attention to if you're seeking to take this territory or destroy it. You can enter right through here between Hag Hall and the Ice Rock Gorge. It also has an entrance up here just south of the Temple of Adioth. And then it is possible to go around this very itty-bitty part of the mountains here. And I believe there's actually a crossing here. When do we fight? Yes, there is a crossing there. So you are able to cross this desert here. And if you do make enemies with Katep, make sure to keep an eye on this western entrance. It's very close to the end of the map, unfortunately. So it can be easy not to realize that this is an open avenue through which enemies can attack you, but they can and will. So be sure if you're playing as the Sisters of Twilight that you keep an eye on your western front. That's somewhere that they could very easily slip through. As for the unique structure, the really nice thing about the Wood Elves is that you can actually just click on this button and it shows you all the unique structures. The buildings are pretty much the exact same between all the different Wood Elves, including Drycha. The only real difference is that Drycha's buildings have they have unique garrisons because they rely much more on, she doesn't have access to certain units. So in many of those cases, the units that she doesn't have access to, which are many of the higher tier Wood Elf units, are replaced instead by malevolent forest spirits. But this is the Temple of Aneth Rama. Once constructed, it causes awakened forest attrition for enemies in the territory. So one thing they did different is, I believe with the exception of Athel Loren, all of the forests across the world do not do attrition when you enter them. They're just kind of normal forests until these unique structures have been built. Once these structures have been completed, then they will start to do attrition damage to armies passing through them. On top of that, this building also gives all armies immunity to mountain and snow attrition, which is very helpful for, most of them are designed so that whatever area the forest is in, it basically makes you immune to all the localized issues you would bump into. This building also gives plus 10% missile strength for all missile units faction-wide, and gives plus 3 recruitment ranks to any lords or heroes using the lore of beasts. Further to the south, we have the Sacred Pools, which, as you can see here, we talked about, they have 3 entrances, one to the south, one to the east, and one to the north. As for what building the Sacred Pools offer, should you manage to get it away from the Lizardmen, you can get the Sacred Pools of Aisha. The Sacred Pools make you immune to Skaven Plague, which is a big one, at least in my playthroughs, immunity to Swamp Attrition. It makes all characters in your faction recover 2 turns faster, and it gives all Lore of Life casters with their heroes or lords plus 3 recruitment ranks in addition to buffing your garrison, which all of these buff your garrison with mostly thematic units. Over in the heart of the jungle, should you fully heal Orion's Camp, you can get the Temple of Kurnos. The Temple of Kurnos makes you immune to desert and barren wasteland attrition, which is great if you're going to be fighting vampire counts, Tomb Kings. Well, I guess there are some vampires here, but Tomb Kings and Greenskins, this is a must-have. It also gives plus 10% weapon strength to all armies, which is very strong. Gives plus 2 recruitment rank for all glade captains, and provides you a garrison buff. Further north, we can go to the Forest of Gloom, where if you defeat the forest goblins and take back this home, you can make the Shadow Groves of Loek. The Shadow Groves of Loek give plus 10% hero action success chance to all characters, so a must-have if you really like using agents, plus 3 recruitment rank for all shadow casters, and plus 3 recruitment rank for all War Dancer and Bladesinger units. So pretty much anything that dances is going to be getting some really nice buffs. A little further north, you've got the Griffin Wood, which if you're playing as Drycha, has 3 main entrances you need to worry about. One to the east, one to the west, and one to the south. It's probably one of the smallest, though movement is greatly reduced in this province, so do be careful if you're trying to attack Drycha or you're defending it as Drycha. It is not a good region to just move through unless you have like an underway stance of some sort. The Griffin Wood, as its unique building, will give you the Temple of Arith Kial. This makes you immune to all vampiric attrition, reduces 30% of the penalty you will receive due to corruption, and also gives +3 recruitment rank to all branch rates. Up in Laralorn,
Lady of the Azray.
The new building is the Verdant Heart of Laralorn. This gives you quite a bit of resources to improve your trading situation. It also gives you a significant amount of income increase from trade. And it also gives you +3 recruitment rank for Waystalkers across all provinces. This one is not bad, but I will say this building can run into some issues due to how basic the trade system is in this game. You know, the factions that actually live in FL Lauren, like Durthu and Orion, can get some pretty nice trade scenarios going, but Drycha can kind of struggle, and the Sisters really struggle to get some good trade going just due to your kind of lack of good options. I mean, at least with the Sisters, if you make your way, if you kind of take everything to the nearest port, which is either Arnheim or the Twisted Glade. Oh, definitely the Twisted Glade. If you take the Val's Anvil and the Twisted Glade, you can actually open up trade to, you know, naval trade, which can give you a lot of good options. Drycha, though, you're probably not going to be trading with anybody because everybody kind of hates her. Anyway, over at the Gain Vale, the structure, once you fully heal the forest, is the Temple of Aisha. The Temple of Aisha gives +5 Winds of Magic for all armies. Well, starting Winds of Magic. +5% physical resistance, and makes you immune to chaos attrition, which is pretty fun. Hopefully that's something we'll actually... I really am hoping that once we get into Game 3, they hopefully make attrition a little bit more interesting. The last thing we're going to look at... if you max build the Oak of Ages, you get the new Big Oak of Ages, which, you know, the Big Oak of Ages is super duper powerful. It's much, you know, it's awesome at discovering Skaven undercities, and gives you a whole lot of super amazing buffs. You know, 10% war saving forest battle, 100% ammo, massive amounts of growth, which growth is honestly probably the most important thing to Wood Elves now. Your growth will determine your income more than like any other feature a lot of the time, because if you want to get a lot of the really impressive buildings so that you can have a good economy, you're going to need crazy amounts of growth, because it does take a lot to build up a significant population in the Wood Elf forests, and the best building for income requires you to have to just build it from nothing to max tier. You need 1, 3, 6. You need 11 population to build it, because it has a tier 1, 2, 3, and 5 form, which is pretty massive. So the more growth you can get, the better. The only other thing that we're going to look at pretty much in this video is what the forests do once they're fully healed for all the Wood Elf factions. This stays the exact same. So the Witchwood, for every 20% you heal it, it buffs your research rate by 5%, capping out at 20% once fully healed. And every single forest, once fully healed, also gives you +1 global recruitment capacity. That's just standard, as well as healing Athel Lauren. So you get research rate from the Witchwood. The Gain Vale, you get +10 Winds of Magic to your power reserve for every tick, and it maxing out at 40, which when you combo that with the building, the Gain Vale is really strong if you like magic heavy builds. The Sacred Pools give you casualty replenishment. You get 3% for every level, so it caps out at 12% additional casualty replenishment rate. Orion's Camp is unit experience gained per turn, and you get 50 per tick. So it caps out at 200 bonus experience per turn for all armies. The Forest of Gloom gives campaign movement at 5% per tick. So once it's fully healed, you get 20% additional campaign movement range, which is a lot, considering that you can also get characters to further buff that. That's actually pretty wild. The Oak of Ages gives you growth and upkeep reduction, and also makes your ability to teleport through the deep roots faster. So, but it also makes it harder to keep the Oak of Ages at full health until you perform the ritual. But once it's capped out, it gives you a bonus 50 growth to all provinces, bonus minus 20% upkeep for all armies and all units, and minus 4 to your deep roots teleportation cooldown. So that means you can teleport it at most every 4... Like, if you get a fully healed Oak of Ages, granted, you pretty much won the campaign at that point, but that means you're literally popping around, I think, every... I want to say you're popping around every 4 turns, which is pretty great. I mean, that's awesome. Pretty crazy. The Griffin Wood does recruitment cost reduction, 5% per tick. So you get minus 20% recruitment cost at max level. And then Laurelorn Forest gives you additional income from all buildings. So if you're someone that's really, really focused on building huge economy, between all the trade buffs and then the income from all buildings buff, you're probably going to want to focus Laurelorn as one of your early grabs. Which, if you're playing as any of the Elf factions, or Durthu, is actually really easy to get, because all you have to do is slap around some Norskins and they'll confederate. If you're playing as Drycha, you do have to take it by force. But, yeah, so it gives you, 3%? Yep, additional income per tick, so it caps out at 12%. And, of course, each one of these forests, once fully healed, will provide a substantial amount of healing to the Oak of Ages every turn, and will increase your global recruitment. That pretty much does it. I've already showed you guys what's in the Darklands. I did do some testing, and from what I can tell, there are no new buildings over here, unfortunately. I even took up a Vampire Count campaign and wandered all the way over to the Silver Pinnacle just to make absolutely sure. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem that they've had time to get any new buildings into these new territories. Which is pretty unfortunate, but hopefully that's something we'll see in the next DLC or patch, whatever comes first. But yeah, hopefully you're all excited to check out all the new features across the world. It's of course, 90% of it revolves purely around the forests. The Skaven only really walked away with one new building out of Grond, but, you know, at least Tretch and Queek got some nice updates to make them substantially better in campaign. I think Queek still probably needs some adjusting, but I did mess around with Tretch quite a bit, and Tretch feels much better. All of his big buffs to Storm Vermin and the additional bonuses to his Scurry Away really do make him stand out significantly among the other Skaven campaigns, at least in my opinion. So it might be worth checking him out. And of course, he essentially is the only Skaven that now has a duo start, since he's able to mess with Crookback Mountain right at the start of campaign. The last thing, of course, worth noting is that Hell Pit is, of course, occupied by Throth the Unclean, who starts off at war with the Norscan Dwarves. So, poor Norscan Dwarves, man. They have just been absolutely smashed into fodder at this point. Between Throth the Unclean, and, you know, anyone that's starting a campaign as a Chaos player, I don't think you're gonna ever see the Norscan Dwarves end up as a playable faction, because they are a killed at the start faction now. In any event, that's everything I've caught so far. I will continue looking around and experimenting just in case maybe they slipped in something somewhere else. But as far as I was able to tell, those are all of the unique structures available right now. Unfortunately, it just require a little bit of testing, because there's been some weird shenanigans involving there are some cities that don't show having a unique structure, even though they 100% do. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. but maybe it's just something they have to kind of recalibrate sometime soon. Hopefully they can fix it. It would be really nice to be able to have it where if you see this, icon, for a fact there's a unique building there, and not just see it and it's like, oh, you might have a unique building there, especially for the Wood Elves. Playing as the Wood Elves, almost every single city that has the unique structure icon, say like Sartosa, will tell you, oh, there's a building here of special importance, but if you actually go there and try and build it, you can't, because the Wood Elves don't have normal occupation stuff. So it's super broken from the Wood Elf perspective. A lot of these places that show having a unique icon are absolutely full of crap, because the Wood Elves are not able to build really any of the common unique structures. For instance, if you were to go down to Orion's camp and you went and took Kosovar, every faction except the Wood Elves, or Horde factions, I guess, has the option to build the unique structure here that gives you some more income and I think makes recruiting cheaper. Wood Elves don't get that. They just treat it as a normal outpost. So, yeah. Anyway, hopefully that was informative. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them down in the comment section below. But that's pretty much everything. From what research I've looked at, I don't believe any of the forests offer any unique structures to other races. With the exception of the Oak of Ages itself, I believe you can still take the Oak of Ages, and I think if you reconstruct it, it makes you just immune to Athalor attrition. Kind of like if you take the Maelstrom, it makes you immune to Reef attrition. But in any event, I hope that was interesting, and I'll see you guys around. Thanks for watching, guys.